Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. This is Yankees Unloaded. Unfortunately, it's coming to you after the Yankees just lost their third straight series. They lost this game today, 3-1 to the Braves after really a tremendous outing from Nestor Cortes, almost identical to the outing Marcus Stroman gave them last night. And, you always feel for a pitcher that comes out there, has the stuff that, Cortes and Stroman does. Stroman got the win. Stroman had run support, and you just don't see run support. And Cortes got none of that. Definitely saw that early on. It was going to be a problem. It felt almost unfair, Gary, because, the way he was pitching at the beginning of the game, and he's down 1-0 because just one mistake pitch to Kahnle, and you're like, something feels off. Because I'll tell you right now, Fried was really good, but there were opportunities for the Yankees to get after him, and they just did not do enough in those opportunities. They ended up out hitting the Braves today. A lot of people don't realize that, but it was a lot of kind of weak hits, things that didn't really matter. Volpe had the only extra base hit of the day. You got to get on however you can, but when you have a Yankees team that isn't stealing 9 bases in a game like the Red Sox did on them, makes it tougher. And so not a lot of opportunities with runners in scoring position. Just a tough day at the ballpark as they get ready to take this off day on Monday and then get back after it at Citi Field against the Mets.
Yeah, Jake means it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
That was a horrible game. It was not a fun game to watch at all.
It was a snoozer.
For those of you who missed the game, it was a snoozer. You'll probably have more fun watching us talk about it than you would have watching that game. But let me say this. When you get to second base twice the entire baseball game, you're not going to win. Okay? I don't care who you play. You have got to get to second base and execute when you get over there. The Yankees flat out didn't show up. It was a no-show. That's all I can describe it as. And Jake, I actually thought before the show, maybe you forgot about this idea, but I want to make sure your idea was brought to the forefront on this show. Before this episode started, you actually mentioned how narrative is driven based on how many runs that an actual pitcher gets in terms of support. And you're absolutely correct. Let me say this. Nestor Cortes, we're going to read his line. He went 7 full, gave up 5 hits, 3 earned runs. He had 7 Ks, gave up just 1 homer. Really good outing, gave us length, everything you could ever ask for. But when the New York Yankees go out there and give you 7 hits, none of which were of any authority whatsoever to which you just brought up, you're absolutely right. Okay, we struck out 9 times. We didn't draw not 1 walk today. Not 1. That's despicable. It's terrible. Max Fried is an incredible. Yeah,
21 strikeouts. It was just free swinging on both sides.
This is okay. So if you're an old school fan of baseball, this is the most disturbing baseball game you would ever watch. 21 strikeouts between the two teams. 0 walks. Okay. We got 1 homer on the day. What a joke. Okay, we're going to win a ton of games. No stolen bases, no athleticism, no adjustments.
The purists are going ham right now.
The purists have a much needed day off tomorrow. Let's just say that because I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle, Jake. I'm somewhere in the middle because there was always a time where there were old school fans of baseball and we were just getting our way, whether it be pre-steroid era, in the steroid era, and then just after that, we were getting our way. There were a ton of action. Balls were put in play all the time, right? There were still homers. We love home runs.
Yeah.
But for the love of God, don't have it be the only way you can do damage. That's all old school fans of baseball are asking. Maybe lay a bunt down every once in a while. Use all fields when you're hitting, right? The basics. This game had nothing to do with any of that. Outside of Ben Rice, who we'll talk about later in the show, Ben Rice did an excellent job going the other way on Max Fried. So this is a lefty on lefty appearance. Just a great swing on a single to left field. I thought that was worth mentioning on his part.
Yeah, absolutely.
And outside of that, there was just nothing hit with any authority. We were taking strikes early in counts, taking fastballs in the fat part of the strike zone. And then for whatever reason, our hitters believing that you're going to do your damage deep into a count against Max Fried's breaking ball. You are not. Okay, so the Yankees just seemingly came into this game with no plan. Hitting against Max Fried is never easy, but when we describe a team as one of the best teams in the American League, if not the entire big leagues, you cannot afford to come into a game and look this way for an extended period of time. I thought it was a joke.
Yeah, it really was. Just really not a inspiring performance at all today by the New York Yankees. And the funny thing is, they're right back where they were, up 1.5 games on the Orioles because the Orioles got swept by the Astros.
Thank you, Houston.
Which is just wild. The Yankees also, by the way, are still leading the majors in wins with 52. Phillies have 51. So it is a reminder that, and take this for what it is. We make a show every single day. So we can dive into this stuff and be a little bit more critical than if you have someone who's making a show every month and they're freaking out, it looks ridiculous. We're making one every day. So we are going to take some drastic steps because we want to put stuff out into the ether. If something's not being covered, well, we feel like we can start a narrative that needs to be started instead of just one that's going to get clicks and whatnot. We really talk about things that we believe in on this channel. And I mean, first off, we believe, you and I both, talked off air about this. We believe Nestor Cortes had just as good of a start as Marcus Stroman. The result wasn't the same. He didn't have the run support Stroman did. And so it wasn't received the same way. So when Cortes gave up those 2 other runs, then you had people like, oh, come on, Nestor. I'm like, come on, Nestor? You can't score more than 3 runs? Come on now. So now we pivot away from the game a little bit, just for a second here, Gary. We have to talk about the giant big G elephant in the room, and that is Giancarlo Stanton. Big G himself is going to miss at least a month with this injury. And we talked about it, last episode. We were concerned. Stanton's not taking himself out of a game if it's just a day-to-day thing. We knew. And then sure enough, he gets placed on 10-day IL. And when we find out he's not going to be back, for a month, Stanton's words himself, it's going to be about 4 weeks. So now we're going to do the same exercise that we did when Soto went down and when Judge got banged up. What the hell is this lineup without Stanton? When you look at it, it's not great. When you really think about it, Soto and Judge obviously are great. Volpe is a great leadoff hitter. He's leading the league, I believe, in defensive runs saved and WAR and all that stuff. So he's doing his job this year. He's made significant strides forward. We're not asking him to hit 340 right now. What he's doing on both sides is very impressive. So you have those 3 guys. Those are your locks. Those are the best guys in the lineup. After that, Verdugo. Verdugo right now is in a rut. He's 2 for his last 23 since that game, which he went 3 for 5 with a homer against the Red Sox. He'll bounce back. He's not a, all or nothing guy. He's a contact bat. He's going through a rut. It happens. Gleyber Torres is not inspiring at all. He's hitting 218. His on-base percentage is below 300. His slugging percentage is only 338. So he's not really inspiring at all right now. DJ LeMahieu is like swinging a Worth bat from Toys R Us. That thing has no pop. It does not matter how hard it looks like you're going to hit it. Hits the ground and just rolls. LeMahieu, really, at this point, you have to wonder what the point of having him on the roster is. He's a solid defensive player. It's not like he's, a Gold Glove level guy. And
definitely an upgrade over, I would say, an upgrade over Oswaldo Cabrera at third base. But as an overall player, and we've talked about this, the upside to Oswaldo at third base is also more so, it's about youth and athleticism. Okay. Yeah. And that's something that this team needs. It's not necessarily about, is this guy a better player than this other guy? Because if it's just that, you'll end up with poor fits. And that's what I believe LeMahieu is. Because you have to remember, when we started talking about all these issues that we're having with third base, isn't it interesting that Oswaldo stopped hitting maybe about 3 days before DJ came back? And by the way, the exact day that Oswaldo came back, if you don't remember, Aaron Boone came out and said, he is our starting third baseman. in DJ LeMahieu. No question about it. We are not having tryouts. We are not figuring out who's playing where. He didn't say any of those things. He said, when this guy's healthy, he's the man. And to be quite honest with you, I have no idea what DJ LeMahieu's done in the last 365 days to earn that type of respect. In my opinion, based on what he did last year, which was just a solid second half performance, he's undergoing major injuries, foot injuries, and he's no spring chicken. This is a middle-aged man. He's 35, 36 years old. There's no reason for the Yankees to believe this player is going to go out there and outperform what we gave from Oswaldo. I don't get that. So in my opinion, if the Yankees want to get better at these positions, you need to just like put someone out there and then say, yes, he's given us something. And then, okay, this player might be better. Maybe. I mean, let me ask this question, Jake, because I'm actually confused. Is the ceiling of DJ LeMahieu better than Oswaldo? Because I think that's a question that needs to be asked.
Absolutely not. I also want to point something out. People were up in arms when 40-year-old Alex Rodriguez was playing third because of his contract. Remember that?
I do remember this. Yes.
And he pretty much got pushed out the door because his play had dropped off. Like the year before, he had 33 homers at 39, 250, 842 OPS. Kind of a surprising year. That was off the suspension, so wasn't taking roids or anything like that. And then, age 40, he's completely fallen off. And at the same time, he's got 9 homers. He's batting 200. I mean, wouldn't you kill for LeMahieu to be having 9 homers right now? He's not even hitting 200. A-Rod had a 598 OPS in that last season in 2016. The Yankees didn't DFA him. They basically told him that you can retire with grace or we're going to get rid of you. And A-Rod basically ended up retiring. And what ended up happening is that they brought up Aaron Judge after that. So
yeah,
fun fact. I just don't see the point with LeMahieu. His OPS is 485 right now. And look, this guy's going to be 26 in less than a month. Or 36, excuse me. He's going to imagine he's 26. He's going to be 36 in less than a month, Gary. So when we're talking about, before the season, and let's not take anything away from him and in the career he's had, batting 291 for his career. That's impressive. And 2 batting titles as well. But here's the deal. When you look at LeMahieu, at this point in his career, he can't stay healthy. He had issues before the season. Remember when he was fully healthy and he finished the season? Well, he somehow got hurt in the offseason. Somehow. And he's had foot issues. And, foot and back issues they hurt extra when you get older. And I just think at this point, any little bit of power he used to have, I mean, he hit 26 home runs with the Yankees, a career high his first year there, had 102 RBIs. Since 10 and 27 RBIs, 10 and 57, 12 and 46, and 15 and 44. That was an outlier year, okay? That's not really who he is. The home runs were nice, but that was never really LeMahieu.
Yeah, but so you can use this exact same argument with Gleyber Torres. Like Gleyber Torres is a player. You can look at his numbers to like this year, right? You can look at him today and you can say, well, he's hitting 218. His ops is 634. But who is this guy? Like, what is the purpose for him hitting 5th in the lineup today? Well, you can use the argument of, well, look who he was last year, or look who he was the year prior. You actually have somewhat of a short term.
That's a muddy water that you're playing.
It is. It 100% is, because you end up putting players who frankly don't have it going of late, and you end up putting them in position based on pedigree and not on their output. And the Yankees, it seems like they've kind of messed with the juju. I don't know what's going on. And you brought up the point that the Yankees still are leading the league in wins. So it kind of goes to show you, like, all teams fight it. Like, there's a point where you're going to go watch the Dodgers play. They'll go play Colorado. I know they just kind of whooped up on Colorado, but I'm just going to use it as an example. The Dodgers, you can go watch them play anybody, and they'll go out there and just lay an egg. It just happens. And you just hope that the series that you're going to go lay those eggs are not against the teams that you really wanted to go prove yourself. We wanted to go prove ourselves against the Baltimore Orioles. I know it sounds crazy that the New York Yankees, as highly touted this organization is, that we're trying to prove ourselves to the world about what we can do against Baltimore. It sounds ridiculous, but Jake, we said before the actual season series started, we said the Yankees have to send a message. We said this, okay? Now,
Yeah.
you just kind of you just hope, okay, they're going to bring out Garrett Cole, make his debut in that series. Okay, well, this needs to work, okay? And if it doesn't work, it puts us in a spiral. It does, because now we're trying to figure out, who are we? And Yankees fans, if you ask the comment section, they'll tell you, well, I don't think we're as good as what our record is, okay? Because that's what we're trying to prove. Are we as good as our record? Are we not? Or are we much worse than our record? Because this does happen in baseball. Teams can go on win streaks and basically get out deeper than their skis, because the Cleveland Guardians right now, without Shane Bieber, we were talking about them as a team who could possibly be sellers, and they can't lose. Okay, so how good are they? Right? So you can't just use win and loss to decipher how good these teams are. It matters who you beat as well. And right now, we're not beating the important teams. So that's what's important to me right now. And the Yankees flat out are laying eggs against the most important teams in baseball. And I guess I want to know why.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team is really good. It's still probably the best team, but it's not a straight ahead. Like, the Orioles' identity is, hey, this is our time. We've waited. We've developed. A lot of these guys are homegrown. Like, it's a really well-constructed roster, and it's only going to get better over time because you have guys like Holiday that will be called up, and they'll figure it out. But with the Yankees, it's a lot of variables, okay? Juan Soto and Judge and Volpe, that's your big three. Then after that, if Stanton, it's always if Stanton stays healthy, if Stanton is hitting homers, if Stanton is hitting above 200, then you start to see if, Verdugo, if he can keep this up, Verdugo, there you have 5. If Torres at any point catches the fire he's had in the past, there you go. There's a lot of ifs. If LeMahieu doesn't get hurt again. Now, if LeMahieu ever gets any pop back into his bat. The one thing I will say, because I have to be honest here, looking at LeMahieu, first off, he's a 4-time Gold Glove fielder. He won a Gold Glove in 2022. So I'm not saying he's never had a glove. Right now, he is average to below average based on what he is right now. Okay. I understand he's had the Gold Gloves in the past. In my opinion, that's what he is defensively. Offensively, this is somebody who, with the first 2 seasons with the Yankees, we have to give him props. There's a reason why a lot of fans don't want to just see him gone, and they still side by this guy, because it's nostalgia. 2019 and 2020, he was in the top 4 in MVP voting back-to-back seasons. Now, obviously, shortened season in 2020, but he hit 364 and had over 1,000 OPS.
He was
the point
great.
I'm making here is that you can't let that affect you. At the end of the day, LeMahieu right now, and it goes both ways. He's only played in 20 games. So the question is, have you seen enough from him to know he's not at any point going to do what he did last year, come on towards the end of the season? Because that, to me, is the only reason he's still on this roster, is that he's only playing 20 games. I'm sure the Yankees are like, well, he did this last year. We'll wait. If they did the same thing, if they were quick trigger, to be fair to them, if they were the quick trigger that we were about Giancarlo early on in the season, he's probably in Baltimore hitting 18 home runs as their DH, because they picked up Victor Gonzalez, because, of course, they'd probably pick up Stanton too. But the point I'm making here is, Gary, he has only played in 20 games. I do have to be fair and point that out. It's not like he's played in 100 so far, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the pop is gone. It's ground ball city. So you have to sit there and be like, the 20 games thing is real. It's a relevant argument. Okay, maybe he comes on. But what if we're just wasting time here? And the fact is, they have guys on their bench that are simply better. I mean, right now, Trent Grisham might not be my favorite player ever, but Trent Grisham, despite the fact he's hitting 136, he has just about the same on base percentage as LeMahieu right now. And I get a slugging percentage that's almost 200 more than what LeMahieu has. And I get a guy that is a threat to put the ball in the seats. He's done that now multiple times this year. LeMahieu doesn't do that. So when LeMahieu's up, you're just hoping the ground ball is going to get by. And another thing, Gary, because everyone hears pop and they think of power. And it's like, that's not fair. You just said LeMahieu's career high is 25. No. There's more to it than that. Because the exit velo is a big reason why Aaron Judge, when he hits a ground ball, that shit is a hard play to make for a shortstop or third baseman, and it's going in the outfield more often than not. Whereas if LeMahieu hits it, these guys are Major League Baseball players. They can make those plays pretty easily. When he's hitting at 70 miles an hour, as opposed to Judge hitting at 102, try making a play on a 102 mile an hour pitch being smacked right down the third base line, whereas LeMahieu's hitting a 70 mile an hour dribbler.
Yeah, that's where analytics can actually be your friend. Like you can look at numbers, and some of them are more simplified and accessible for us to we can accept these. Okay, you're talking about exit velocity. We're talking about how hard someone hits the baseball. That's a very simple stat, and we used to do that with our eyeballs. We used to go to the field, and you'd watch Ken Griffey Jr. You see Tony Gwynn go the other way, or whoever you want to talk about. You can see, oh, this guy's got more pop than another guy. You could tell. But now we have a way to quantify that. And I think that's brilliant, right? But that's an analytic that you do have to pay attention to. And this is the crazy part. You actually brought it up earlier this year when you were trying to evaluate Austin Wells and his value on this team, because people were asking us, what's this team going to do to get more athletic? And I thought that was a proper and, to be honest with you, just a total fair gripe to have with this team, despite the winning, is that they needed to get more athletic. There are a lot of teams in baseball that they might not hit a home run, but they can win a game in another way. Well, Austin Wells was a player who analytically was hitting the ball hard consistently. Okay. Analytics were showing us this. And of course, we were watching the game every day. It's our job as podcasters hosting the show. We see what he's doing. Okay. So that's the crazy part, is not everything is about what's your average, what's your ops. Okay. But there's also analytics that can tell us, is there a reason that despite the numbers right now in the short term, I can believe in you long term? Because DJ LeMahieu has nothing analytically going on that you can say, hey, in September and October, when we're clearly going to be playing more baseball, that guy who we've got hitting sixth, he's a danger to the other team. He's someone that they need to be worried about. And to be quite honest with you, all of the different things that people have said we need to get better at, I don't see how he can even help solve them. So that's part of the reason why I'm giving a lot of blowback to this whole idea that DJ LeMahieu is just our starting third baseman and he deserves, a ton more time. That was a mistake. You mentioned that, hey, well, okay, yeah, he hasn't played 100 games. And that's true. But do I necessarily have to see every player in Major League Baseball play 100 games before I can make a decision about their future with my team? I don't think that's fair. I don't think that Oswaldo Cabrera didn't get 100 games. Why not? Because according to that, okay, that entire argument, every single player that was starting for the Yankees at the beginning of the year that was responsible, and at least partially responsible for their success, should have somewhat of leeway to work with. Give them some type of runway. If they stop playing well, go find their replacement. Because right now, you can say that Gleyber Torres has played plenty of games to make a judgment about him. He's been playing all year. He's hitting 212. He doesn't have pop. He's not hitting homers. His defense, he's leading the league in errors. So you can easily make a judgment about him. Now I've got to wait another 65 games with DJ to tell you the same thing I'll tell you today. I personally don't understand this. I think the Yankees in general need to get more athletic. He doesn't help that. Gleyber Torres doesn't help that. There are a lot of guys on this team that don't help that. Rizzo doesn't help that. So I don't know. We're in a spot right now where I don't want to get too judgmental about every player on the team, because overall, I think our team's excellent. I really do. I know it's
Yeah.
hard to tell people you've got an excellent team to root for while you're losing, while you've lost 3 straight series. It's really hard to hear. Who wants to hear that shit? Yeah, your team's great. They can't win any games right now. They can't buy a win, but that happens. But as far as picking and choosing different guys on the roster, which is our job to cover, yeah, some of these guys, they don't belong on a really good team. They just don't.
So Baseball Savant has exit velocity averages.
Mhm.
I thought this was interesting with LeMahieu. And we'll start off from 2019 because that's when, he joined the Yankees. A career high, 91.9. Then the following year, 91.3, 90.6, 89.2, 89.6, 88.8 this year. The lowest of LeMahieu's career. This is even worse. So I'm actually not a big fan of launch angle. I think it's way too overrated,
Okay.
But at the same time, if a launch angle is in the negative, then it kind of tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, you're just
And
beating balls into the
LeMahieu,
ground.
yeah, LeMahieu for his career since 2019, 6.6, 2.3, 5, 3, 3.8. What the hell? Negative 1.7 this year.
So he's on average hitting a ground ball.
I'm not kidding you.
They should move every single player
about
from the outfield to the infield when he hits. Leave
Yeah.
one guy out there in center field. Put to be honest with you, I'm not even kidding you, Jake, when I say this. Other teams can probably get away with putting their left fielder, taking him out of the outfield altogether against DJ LeMahieu. Putting your center fielder and your right fielder. Your center fielder is in right center field. Your right fielder is down the right field line, and you've got an extra infielder. Completely unstoppable defense against DJ LeMahieu. I'm not kidding you. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to actually explain to someone who is really busy and doesn't get a chance to watch the Yankees as much as we do. That's genuinely a defense that would work.
Yeah. LeMahieu at this point, it's not all on him, obviously.
Not at all.
But it is a problem. And to me, he's a bench guy. And I think he's definitely worth DFAing if this doesn't get fixed, because 185 slugging in 185 average and 280 on base percentage. It's like, you're just going out there and having fun. You're just doing cardio, like you said.
That's like my favorite saying is someone's just doing cardio, because we're not playing baseball.
Nah.
You can't say this is baseball. You're going up there to hit. It's supposed to be dangerous. It's supposed to be fun. And you're just slapping ground balls. I know that guys aren't hitting balls hard that struggle. Like, yeah, if you watch a player who struggles for any period of time, they look bad. But there's just nothing of authority. There's nothing athletic. There's nothing to write home about. It's just demoralizing.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking, he's hitting a pitch about at least 5 to 10 miles an hour slower than where it came in. I mean, come on. That's just not. It's what happens, man. 88? Really?
I feel like we're really fair too. I really do think that, because you have to remember, we've talked about exit velocity spikes from Volpe, Soto, Judge, even Verdugo, right? Like, we've actually talked about it. I feel like we're being objective because we're not trying to be funny or slick or smart about any of these players. We're strictly spitting out numbers. And of course, it's funny to hear that your catcher's throwing the ball 70 miles an hour on average, and that his entire, like, his high this season is 77. But meanwhile, some of the best catchers in the league are throwing the ball 87 miles an hour to second base. Okay, so it's like it's funny how bad it is, right? It's also funny to see guys who have negative exit, like not exit velocities, but launch angles. Launch angle doesn't mean everything, but if the numbers tell me that you always are hitting ground balls and you're not fast, what are we talking about? This is not D. Gordon, okay? This is not like a player who can slap the ball Like Volpe, for example. Volpe clearly is the fastest baseball player that's in our starting lineup. If he was hitting a bunch of ground balls, at least we could say he's trying to adjust his angle of his swing and that he's trying to get on base more because he's fast, right? He's putting pressure on defenses. There's no pressure on the defense when DJ hits a ground ball. He's out by 25 steps. He's jogging first. What are we talking about?
And again, the exit velocity thing, in my opinion, like, I don't want to put too much of an emphasis. I think honestly, and this is kind of the funny thing, is that I do think exit velocity matters when you're hitting it, hard on the ground and everything. But launch angle, which I really just think is one of the more overrated things, a negative. I have never seen a negative before, and he's never had a negative before. So it really tells you he is just basically, he's just chunking it. He's just chunking it.
Well, hold on a second, Jake. We'll move on after this. We can't read into velocity, exit velocity off the bat. Isn't that the exact reason that I was told, that you were told, everyone around us was told, everyone in baseball, Cody Bellinger never received a 7 or 8 year contract from any team across baseball? Why? Was it his injury history? Nope. Was it his production? Not at all. Why? It was because of his exit velocity. Go ask them. They'll tell you. Isn't that crazy?
Over reliance on analytics. I think we do it the right way. And I mean, I hate being like, yeah, pat ourselves on the back. We're just freaking awesome. But like, no, like, all jokes aside, you guys probably do it the same way too. Using it as a tool like it was intended. These are tools. You talk about, like, with football, PFF, Pro Football Focus, is a tool. Okay. You don't use it as the Bible. You don't use analytics as the Bible. It's not the end all be all. And so, like, for instance, Luis Renifo, the guy that a ton of Yankee fans want to, trade for.
Okay.
This is when analytics will make you sound like a fool. Okay. You can't just make the same argument we did against DJ LeMahieu and say, well, I want him to be our third baseman, when his exit velocity is 86.5 average. It's worse than LeMahieu's. So if you were saying we need to get rid of him because of his exit velocity, and they're like, well, Rengifo, he's hitting 306. Yeah, but you were just telling me your exit velocity thing was all, big. And that's when, okay, you go to the next thing. What's the next thing? His launch angle is at 5.6. So it's a normal. He's not just literally surgically implanting the ball into the ground.
Wait, but Jake, you didn't hear?
What's that?
You didn't hear? Analytics was designed for confirmation bias and for no other reason.
I know. I actually wouldn't.
I just use it.
I wouldn't be against Rengifo. He's 27. I mean, to be fair, and before we move to the next thing here, I want to check out his contract because I need to know: are we getting anything with that? Any years of control? Okay, so you would get an additional year of control. Arbitration would be 2025. I don't hate it, but like, what are you giving up? Like, he's hitting 306. Angels are going to want something for him. They got nothing for Ohtani. They can't just be giving guys away, So,
I don't know, Jake. I don't think we should be even trying to apply logic when it comes to the Angels. What do they know about logic? They gave a player,
that's true,
and I won't say his name, who doesn't like baseball, $240 million. They had the best baseball player who's ever touched a baseball diamond outside of maybe Barry Bonds. And they could have gotten a king's ransom. Could you imagine what they could have gotten for Shohei Ohtani 2 years before free agency? Ridiculous. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's any way to apply logic to them in terms of the trade market. I just don't. I think that the Angels are just this huge wild card. I think they're a baseball team that plays next to Disneyland, and they're kind of just, they're just a big circus show over there. There's just no telling.
I also have to say something here. And Rengifo, good bat, but his fielding run value is -5. So I don't know. I think I'll pass. I don't know.
Wait, where does he play?
Third. So he's not better than LeMahieu at third defensively.
Oh, I don't care about LeMahieu. What's Cabrera's defense looking like rating wise? Because I think that's important. Because I think that's largely misunderstood.
That is important.
Because he's making errors.
-3.
Okay. So he's considered below average as well.
And
So if the
LeMahieu's is
bat is going to be
3,
good.
so it's in the
Okay.
great range. So, I mean,
Okay.
maybe he is better than I give him credit for at, fielding. I don't really feel like, just watching him, but yeah, I mean, what's funny is Oswaldo Cabrera is in the 88th percentile for whiff percentage, which is not something you would expect when you're talking about him. And Rengifo is 66th, but he's 91st in K percentage. So he doesn't strike out a lot. Kind of a slap, slap
He's
single
kind of
hitter.
Verdugo-esque. Verdugo's
But
got more pop.
He had 16 homers last year, believe it or not.
Yeah, so he's like Verdugo.
And he's got 20 stolen bases this year after having back-to-back seasons with 6. So, yeah, I mean, he gives you athleticism. I'm going to say this. I don't think he makes a ton of sense. I get the rationale. He's hitting 306, just surgically implant him in the lineup. But I don't know if I'm giving up prospects for Rengifo. I know you'd get a year, but I would like to see better fielding. It can't just be like, I don't care, stick him in the lineup. At that point, I have to push back because you can say, yeah, LeMahieu's really struggling. But if I really am like tired of LeMahieu struggling, I'll just bring in Cabrera. I'll deal with the little bit of drop off in defense. I don't think I know analytically he's -3. Rengifo is a -5. Okay. So I think -3 is like a little bit below average. And honestly, I think a lot of that stems from the fact that he's kind of a utility guy. He starts off his career in the outfield. Then they have him playing second and first and third, even played shortstop at times last year. So he's never had a true position. And I think when they kind of wanted him to be that third baseman, we started to see when he was playing every day, yeah, he'd make mistakes, but he'd make some really nice plays. Now he's not playing as much. So when he goes out there, he's making errors and stuff. And, I think my feeling here is that if you're going to go out and you're going to get somebody, get a guy with some control, I will say. Get a guy with athleticism, but get a guy who's well-rounded, okay? You can't
Reminds
just
me
be
a lot of IKF.
I know. Don't get me started with that. Don't just get a guy because he's got a good barrel percentage. I'm so tired of, his barrel. He has all these barrels. What does that mean?
like he's Donkey Kong. Barrels. What does that mean? Talking about barrels.
And he runs a he runs a freaking brewery. Like,
yeah, go get me a good baseball player, you schmohawks. Stop talking to me about barrels. Stop talking to me about velocity. And I use all these analytics to kind of poke fun at how we've applied these analytics because according to what they say, they really do utilize them. And so DJ LeMahieu clearly is at third base because he's such a defensive upgrade over Cabrera. If that's their mentality, I guess, sure. But based on what this team needs, this lineup is just not that deep. I think they need a shot in the arm offensively. I throw Cabrera back in there, and I hope that his bat kind of retracts back to what it was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I just have to throw this out here. I just saw an analytic that is XWOBACON. XWOBACON.
I'm going to make XWO bacon tomorrow morning for breakfast. Stupid. This is what happens when you allow, because you have to remember, the reason baseball is this way, Jake, what does it mean?
I mean, that's another problem. It's funny you have all these what do you mean you don't know XWO bacon? They never have any of they don't have a legend for any of these. So I'm I don't know what that means. So it's, if I'm trying to decipher this, X means expected, right?
Okay.
So
yes.
Expected wins above, and then I have to figure out. All right, we're moving on. This shit is insane. So yeah, that Rengifo is a guy that's been mentioned. I figured we'd bring him up. Good to know he has a year of control left over after this year. It wouldn't just be a rental. So does Birdie, by the way. So I also want to say that for anybody that wants to push Birdie out the door, when Birdie comes back, he was hitting 270 when he got hurt. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not out on him. I'm not even necessarily advocating to trade for anybody. I'm just saying, what people are saying. Like, and you bring up Reyneifo, I want to do my research, and I did that. But we will. Actually, I'll get to JD Davis in a sec. I also wanted to touch on what you were saying about athleticism. You know what's funny? The Yankees have a really athletic lineup that they could go to. It's actually kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, by
Volpe,
choice. Yeah.
Soto, Judge, Verdugo, okay, Peraza at second base. He just got sent down, but you put Peraza at second base. Third
Nice
base, Cabrera. Rice at first. Catcher Rice or catcher Wells, and center fielder Grisham. Everyone in that lineup is scoring from first base with a hit in the gap.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening to our podcast for the first time, Jake gets rock hard about scoring from first base, in large part because if you read off like hitters 4 through 9 in Yankees lineups, they'll never score on a ball in the gap. Ball in the gap, they are hitching the trailer and they're stopping at third base every time. It is with routine. If they get there, they are absolutely going to round third base and turn around and look at and say, "Oh yeah, the ball's in." No shit, the ball's in. You're barely moving.
Did you see that hit?
Crazy.
Was it Stephen Kwan or was it? Oh my God, that just reminded me. It was either Stephen Kwan, one of the slap single guys, him or
he would be one of them.
Your guy Arias. One of those guys had a base hit, okay, like crushed it, and it wasn't a hit because they were safe at first. But the idiot at first base, the runner that was on first base, thought it was caught for whatever reason. And so he just ran back to first and he was out at second. This is in the outfield. And he got thrown out at second.
I don't know. You'll have to find this play. You honestly will. And I know you know how baseball Twitter is. Everyone's just copying videos. So you'll find it.
Oh, yeah. But how ridiculous is that? And that, we were not even going to get into baseball stats and all that. We could be here all day. Guys get wins for throwing a single pitch. That happened this year. He doesn't get a hit for that. How is that not a hit? That's insane. That's the most insane thing ever. Oh, the ball hits the ground in the outfield and I got to first. Nope, not a hit. Because that idiot went back to first and now you're out because of his mental error.
No, some ding-a-ling's not paying attention. So you get... And you know what's so crazy, though, about this game is there's some rules in baseball that I think a lot of us dislike. That's probably one of them. I don't really know that many people think about it, but there's like plenty of rules in baseball. There's plenty of rules in golf where we just kind of accept them as they are. And old school fans, and we kind of like to believe that people who watch our show are more old school fans of the game. There are going to be listeners who like all these different things. Like, yeah, I think it's cool that your teammates can affect your personal stats. I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. Yeah. I don't think there's any reason why if I hit a ball 120 out to the outfield and some dude at first base is not paying attention, I think he should just get I'm a dumbass. Expected bacon, add it to his stats. Not good.
It's big.
Yeah, it's his problem. It has nothing to do with me. Could you imagine if Derek Jeter hit his 3,000th hit, lines the ball in the left field, and not like the guy at first base fell down and was like normally thrown out at second base? No, not any of that. Like the dude forgot how many outs there were and just like runs into the dugout or runs out of the base path and you don't give him a hit. Totally stupid. Dumb.
It's like in basketball, Curry dishes it to Clay and Clay misses it. And it's that's technically Curry missed that shot. Come again? Or in football, you throw what looks to be a touchdown. You throw a bomb downfield, 60 yards. It's like Tua to Tyreek Hill or whatever. And Tyreek Hill fumbles at the 1 yard line. It goes out of bounds.
Well, Jake, why don't you use the best example?
Tua's fumble.
Well, Jake, why don't you use the best example in sports history? Tom Brady throws a pass over the middle, hits his receiver right in the chest. He tips it up in the air, and the safety picks it off for an interception, runs it back for a touchdown. In the stat book, they say Tom Brady interception. Change that shit. It doesn't make sense. Okay, and there's plenty of rules in baseball that kind of unfold like that. Your teammate should have no bearing whatsoever on your stats. I want to know when I look at your stats, what type of player are you? Okay, yeah, I don't want to see errors on your
batting average. Why did my batting average get affected because that Nimrod can't run the bases?
I don't know.
On
I don't
base
know. Speaking
percentage,
of
all
running,
that.
yeah, speaking of running the bases, by the way, there was a play in today's game that I actually thought was interesting. And I liked it. Even though we were out, I liked it because it seemed aggressive and it's
Grisham
something that I
scoring
want
from
more of.
first.
It was Volpe going from second to third base. Now, of course, he was
Mm.
hosed at third base. I thought it was a really good play by Arcia, realizing that Volpe was actually trying to go to the next base. But Girardi actually brought up a really good point in the booth. He mentioned that a ball that's going behind you when you're at second base, you're taught to go to third base. That's what you're taught. Now, Arcia received a hard hit ground ball, so he felt like even though the ball was behind Volpe, I have an opportunity to go to third base. I thought fundamentally that was exactly the way Volpe needed to play. And frankly, if guys throw you out and make smart and heads up plays and you're just gunned out, you got to tip your cap. So I actually thought like that kind of can get lost in the mix and these like shit losses. People just, they don't remember these plays. I remember them. And I think overall, if we're continuing to make fundamental plays like that, aggressive plays, not boneheaded, aggressive, like smartly aggressive, I think in general, it makes this team appear a little bit more athletic than what they are. And I honestly believe we need that.
Austin Riley's tag was so bad. The fact that even was reviewed because of how bad he put that tag on him. Like I texted you, I was like, man, I just overturned the thing for just how bad the tag was. Like, you deserve whatever you get.
And he was
that
out.
was pathetic. Oh,
yeah, he was out. But the tag was terrible, to your point.
But like the fact that it was even worth arguing, I don't like the blocking of the plate. Can we stop with the whole? I've heard that argument now 4 straight games. I'm so over it. And all 4 of them have, if it was overturned, it would have benefited the team that we cover. And I'm over it. Just no more. None of it. It's so annoying. It doesn't ever get overturned. And once again, you're taking something that should be obvious and now you're making it like, oh, well, this person's opinion will be this and this person's opinion will be this. I just don't like it. I also didn't like that Austin Wells was in the lineup today. No idea why this guy's being used as just a bench guy at this point. Tommy Kahnle only threw 17 pitches today. All 17 of them were changeups and he struck out 3. So that was fun.
How are people striking out on a pitch? This is not Mariano's cutter. And trust me when I tell you, Jake,
his changeups are disgusting.
I'm fully aware of how good his changeup is. Okay, that's great. But let's remember something really quick. Do you not remember what Twitter was saying? And Twitter is a bunch of complete morons, but let's actually use them in this example. I rarely use them, but I'm going to use them here. Do you remember when Luis Gil got absolutely shelled against Baltimore? You remember what they said on Twitter? They said, you know what I heard? I heard Luis Gil was tipping pitches. I think that's the reason why he got hit. So tell me why, when we know for certain a pitch is coming, we can say that that's enough evidence to assure us that player is going to give up hits. But then when I watch a pitcher throw 17, 18 straight changeups, now suddenly he can just strike out 3 because those pitches are just good. Jake, we have to be consistent about what we're saying. If the other team knows what pitch is coming, they shouldn't be being struck at. Like, they shouldn't strike out 3 times in a row. That is absurd. And it also tells me, Jake, that fastball is just not there yet. No. I don't know if it's going to get here at any point, but as of now, you can't throw 18 straight changeups. Then that's crazy.
I mean, all the power to him. If he can keep doing that, great. That's just not really sustainable, but it was hilarious. I did chart all of them. So it was 17 changeups. That was
absurd.
Crazy. Grisham had 2 hits today. Ben Rice had 2 hits today.
Yep.
Ben Rice looks the part. I mean, now we'll move to the last part of this. Actually, second to last part of this. JD Davis picked up from the Athletics. This trade was announced during the game, pretty much right as the game was starting. A first, third base, and DH guy. Boone says he will platoon at first. That actually pissed me off because I think now, well, think about this. JD Davis can play third, right? And I'm not saying he's a great third baseman by any stretch. He's kind of, -4 fielding run value. 10th percentile, so not great. But it pissed me off because it's like, so are we really going to start taking away Ben Rice opportunities for a 31-year-old like guy that's really just there to hopefully he hits 18 home runs like he did last year? I like the JD Davis pickup because you took Jordan Groshans, who you acquired at the beginning of the preseason anyway, and you got something for him. And if Davis plays like he did in 2023, 738 OPS, 248 average, 18 homers, we'll take that. That's a good, that's a good bench bat. But I don't want this. We're going to take Ben Rice out of the lineup for this guy. So I would rather him not ever say that, because that annoyed me. Ben Rice right now is one of the only interesting guys in this lineup. You have Volpe, Soto, Judge, Verdugo, and Ben Rice. Everyone else at this point, if Wells doesn't play, it's like, who else is interesting?
Well, I'll tell you what is interesting. Let's just say that you commit to JD Davis and you throw him over at first base. Well, doesn't that open the door? Because I was told Ben Rice could catch. He caught Garrett Cole in the minor leagues. So if they're possibly going to open that door, I'm cool. Okay? I'm cool with it. And you have to remember, I'm cool with that. But here's where I would get pissed off. And to exactly your point, if you're putting him at first base and you're telling me that, Ben Rice, we're just going to throw him, like, let's just say we just send him back down to the minor leagues, or we just let him rot on the bench, that would piss us off, because it kind of goes back to what the Yankees have done with their prospects, which is kind of throw them out there for a weekend and a half and say, we believe in you, kid. All right, come back and sit with me. We're going to throw this 32-year-old veteran out there who played with the Mets, the Blue Jays, the Houston, right? They played with all these teams. They're a veteran player. He's going to hit 240. We really believe in him. Why? Why do you put so many eggs in the basket of veterans, veteran role players, frankly, instead of giving an opportunity to a young player, to which they're actually giving that opportunity to Ben Rice right now, and he's running with it. Okay, he had 2 hits today. He's been highly athletic. He's getting on base. He doesn't care where he plays. Stroman was complimenting his defense, right? Of course. So let's remember, you cannot possibly justify trading for JD Davis and then throwing him over at first base and then limiting the opportunities of your young talent. I think if you're going to change where that opportunity is coming from for Rice, I think it makes sense. If not, I'll just chalk it up to a depth piece. We just can't completely buy into it, because if you do, you're almost like taking someone out the driver's seat, and it's just not helping the Yankees long term.
No, and to your point with catching, Rice catching, like, okay, but now Wells is barely getting opportunities now as it is, which doesn't even make sense, because now Trevino's starting to fall off a little bit. The bat's still there, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't always love the way they handle their prospects. And like I've said before, Volpe, I thought they did it the right way. They could have pulled out at any point in that experiment last year. They went through it, and I think it was important. Volpe ended up with a Gold Glove, which I think helped his confidence, really established himself. I think he's built off that. He's the best defensive shortstop in the league analytically right now. So he's definitely taken and run with it. And then the bat, he learned from the mistakes of last year, because sometimes you just have to let the guy fail. Really, you have to let the guy fail. You have to set that bar. Once you've set the bar over the course of a season, you set the bar now over the course of the season. Volpe was hitting in 210s, 220s, and now he's hitting at 271. And the thing that people are complaining about with him is his lack of pop now. I don't give a rip. He's got 6 home runs. He'll probably finish with around 20 for the season. He'll probably start, coming on with the home runs.
Who cares?
That's what I'm saying.
Pop? Jake, when were people complaining about Derek Jeter's lack of pop? He didn't have pop. Derek Jeter was hitting 15 homers a year. Let me ask people a question, and I'm being serious. Do you really think that people were coming to the stadium when my dad was on the team? Okay, let's just use that team as a perfect example. There was Bernie Williams. It was my dad. It was Jorge Posada, Alex Rodriguez. You think people were coming to the field to watch Derek Jeter put a ball in the seats? You guys are kidding me. Derek Jeter didn't have pop like that. He He can maybe get a hanging breaking ball and hit it the other way, or, go to the pull side on a curveball. But he wasn't going out there and giving you 27 bombs. It wasn't happening. Okay. So if Anthony Volpe, Jake, if Volpe was exactly Derek Jeter, right? Which he's not, but let's just say if he was, if he hit 14 homers, would the fans be satisfied? I would, because it's dependent on what else he does.
He's the leadoff hitter. I don't need him to hit anything more than 10.
I want his plate discipline to get better because I know what's behind him. Again, just with Jeter, I knew what was behind him. Okay.
And
that was his
doesn't
job.
That show maturation, how he's changed his launch angle? He's focused on more of a plain swing because he realizes he's not the guy. The guy is Soto. The guy is Judge. He needs to set the table for those guys, right? So he's being a team player and he's showing, maturity beyond his years because he's not swinging for the fences. He's trying to work counts. He's trying to steal bases. He's trying to get opportunities to be runners in scoring position. Hey, now I got Soto and Judge, and I'm on second. I'll score easily. Hell, he'll score from first if you give him an opportunity. No, I think Volpe is absolutely doing everything that he needs to do. I have no issues with his game at all. That's why I keep calling them the big three. There's no one even close. But keep an eye on Rice, because if Rice continues this, he's going to be the fourth guy. I mean, honestly, if he continues hitting like this, he'll be the fourth guy.
That would really worry me. If one of the guys that you just kind of called up on a whim, right? Some injuries happen and then he turns into your fourth best player. I personally, Jake, I'm all for, trust me, we both like this player. If a dude you called up because of injury from your system ends up being your fourth best offensive option, you are not the best team in the American League. I'm here to tell you that right now. That there's no way that in the world that a player that you called in case of an emergency, this guy, he catches, he DHs, we're going to call him up and he's having a better year than Glaber. He's having a better year. I mean, he's hitting better than DJ. Who's he not better than from 5 down in our lineup? That's worrisome.
That's what I'm saying right now is that,
that's worrisome.
If Jason Dominguez was ready to go right now, he'd be the fourth best hitter in the lineup.
I agree with you.
Spencer Jones wouldn't be the worst hitter in the lineup. But I agreed with Boone saying that they weren't considering calling up Spencer Jones. I think it's way too soon. I don't think he's shown enough. Like, again, with Rice, he was raking in Double-A. Mm-hmm. They called him up to Triple-A, and there was no drop-off. He only got better. You saw Jason Dominguez doing what he was doing in Triple-A. Now he's hurt, of course. God, I have to hear it every single broadcast. I mean, I'm not hating on him. Love Girardi. Girardi saying what we all knew. Man, this would have been a great opportunity for Jason Dominguez to get full-time at-bats.
Thanks, Joe.
If he didn't get hurt, I was like, yep. But we'll wrap this up with one final thing here from the minor leagues. Oswald Peraza was sent down after the game. His option was literally used to just give him a jersey and a locker for a day and then just send him back down. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Oswald Peraza is killing it in AAA because he is not. His batting average is below 200. Okay. But what I will say is that this is a pattern and I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is because I am one of those, people call them prospect huggers. I like prospects. I like the idea of developing. I think you go back to your roots with, the Buck Showalter Yankees and, Gene Michael and all those guys. I mean, I think that's really what led to what they were able to do. If you didn't have Derek Jeter, if you didn't have Jorge Posada or, Andy Pettitte, Bernie Williams, that is what helps you because we talk all the time about stars, right? Well, Aaron Judge was homegrown. Okay. So you have to have at least, a foundation. And I mean, the cool thing about the Yankees lineup right now is you have Ben Rice. I mean, not right this second because Trevino played today, but you could have a lineup of Volpe, Judge, Ben Rice, Wells. I mean, that's 5 guys right there from your farm system.
Yep.
Now, the reason why I said this is a pattern is because Peraza, people forget he's 24 now. He just turned 24 June 15th. People forget because he's no longer on the top 10 list for prospects. They don't deem him a prospect anymore. He played 2 years in the MLB. He's had 70 games, 248 plate appearances, 222 at-bats. Peraza, his first year with the Yankees when he was called up, only playing 18 games. Batted .306. Okay?
Yeah, looked good. Yep.
So he looked good. This second year, not so much. Bad 191, 539 OPS. Did not look good. Okay? That doesn't take a genius to know that. But what I bring up here, and this is important, is that this is somebody that they refuse to trade. Okay? When they had a chance to get some of those guys like a Luis Castillo, they asked for Oswald Peraza. They also asked for, of course, Volpe and Jason Dominguez, and it was a little outrageous. But the Yankees would not part with Peraza. Like, they, at one point or another, they were looking at the Miami pitcher who ended up going to Minnesota. I always forget his name, Pablo Lopez.
Yep.
And they would not part with Peraza. And honestly, there was a lot of speculation. People say it was Glaber, but there was a lot of speculation. The Yankees traded away Montgomery with the expectation that deal was done and they were going to end up with Lopez. Like, no
I do remember
questions
this.
asked.
I do remember this.
The point I'm making here is this is a pattern because it's not just Peraza. Go back to when the Yankees acquired Sonny Gray and they gave up Mateo and they gave up some other prospects as well. I'm not saying all those prospects ended up being great. Mateo ended up bouncing over to the Orioles, and he's a good player. He's not like generational or anything like that.
No, he's not can't miss, but definitely a big leaguer.
But you traded him away because you were just absolutely sold. Even though the top 10 on MLB.com was telling us otherwise, you kept talking about Estevan Florial. Okay, you kept saying this guy is a 5-tool player. He's got all this power. And guess what? You were right. Based on what we were seeing, 30 home runs in the minors, batting 300. But what was the thing that we, as the fans that followed this, kept wondering? Where is he? Why is he not getting called up? Then he gets called up and, okay, he has the first time seeing him, he actually looked decent. And then it just never really panned out. This is a pattern, okay? And it's a reminder that, as great as some of these professionals can be, and Brian Cashman is great at his job. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a general manager in baseball. So in that sense, he's great. We might not be a fan of him all the time. I don't love him, if I'm being honest with you, but he's good enough to be a general manager for the New York Yankees. So that goes a long way. But what I'm saying is, for things that he does well and the things that we've given him credit for, same thing with Boone. Boone might be good at this, but struggle in this area. Guys have their pros and cons. The one con that Cashman really has, and you've brought this up, and as a prospect hugger, it sounds like I'm against it, but I am not against trading prospects because at some point or another, you're going to lose them to the Rule 5 draft. The whole point of the Rule 5 draft is so you don't just hoard prospects and ruin their careers and set them back forever by just keeping them in the minors and just keep, taking advantage of the service time manipulation. It's meant to incentivize you to get them the hell out of there and give them an opportunity.
Yeah, but how would you describe this prospect, though? That's essentially my question is, so when someone calls himself a prospect hugger, and there are a lot, of course, in Yankees Twitter or just in Yankees land in general, but then there's also there's not as much, but there's also people on the other side, right, that are all for trading prospects for the sure thing. Okay. And though those sure things are more expensive, they usually cost a pretty penny. Okay. That usually falls on the lap of Hal Steinbrenner, to which I don't really care. But overall,
no one cares.
If you really think about this whole idea of prospect hugging, and I think this is the most important thing to take away of all this, you're talking about the fact that Brian Cashman overall does not make the correct choice at the time of when it's time to give up on a guy. Okay. And if you've got a prospect that you say is a good player and you now know, okay, based on what we have on the roster and the players, around him from our farm system, this guy clearly has no fit, whether we have redundancy in center field, redundancy at catcher, shortstop, wherever. If you now know This player, you've given him a chance. You didn't really love it. You should be trying to get value. Okay? Trade this player. There's no reason for you to tell me this guy's good, give him an option, call him up to the big leagues for 1 day, to which we did 2 days, and then send his behind back to the minor leagues. That makes no sense. Estevan Florial, we did that. Okay, we did it with Clint Frazier. There's so many different
Clint Frazier, but yeah.
There's so many different players for the New York Yankees where you're just like, okay, they clearly don't like this guy. So why are we holding on to him? Why is it that we're so afraid to trade this player? So my whole point is this, Jake. I wouldn't even call that being a prospect hugger. That has like nothing to do with the process. You're talking about the idea of trading players that you don't even see value in our organization. You don't see a role. So that's not even like, that's not even skeptical. Trading prospects. That's trading like value at the bottom of the barrel. That's not even a thing.
Peraza was the second, I think third or second overall prospect in the farm. And I was skeptical because to me, I always saw it as him or Volpe. Both are shortstops. You have to choose one or the other. They chose Volpe. I think they chose right. Mm-hmm. Then we start seeing Peraza play in second and third and short. And, you know, at that point, you have Cabrera in left field. Cabrera also can play, you know, that utility role, can play those spots. But it seemed like they moved Cabrera and kept him out there to give Peraza a shot. Then, you know, Peraza dealt with some injuries and all that, whatever. But now it just seems like they're fine with Cabrera, who was like their 14th prospect. They're fine with Cabrera being that guy. And, you know, and that's all fine and well, but you had so many opportunities to trade away Peraza. And the moment that you realized, because clearly they knew this a little bit ago, the moment you realized he wasn't going to be a franchise player, because he's not going to be, okay? This doesn't happen to guys that will be franchise players. He could come on, but it's gonna happen his next stop. Okay, it won't be with the Yankees. They've ruined him. But my thing here, Gary, and he's on the 40-man as well. But my thing here, the moment you realize he's no longer going to be a top prospect, he's no longer going to be a potential franchise player, that's when, as a team that is vying for a World Series, that's when you trade a guy like that. And unfortunately, what's going to end up happening is the same thing that happened to Trey Sweeney. Okay. Trey Sweeney was a first round shortstop. They traded him away for Caleb Ferguson, Victor Gonzalez, and Yorbi Vivas. I mean, end of the day, like, the Yankees hold on to guys too long and they give up too much. I've always felt that way. And now, not all the time, because I thought the Soto deal was an absolute steal. They didn't give up much at all, aside from King. But the reality is, you can't keep doing this, because now you mentioned redundancy. Well, what do you think this farm system right now is? Because I mean, I talk about all the time.
Center fielders.
I talk about all the time, and I like it. I like Jason Dominguez a lot. I still don't look at him as a prospect, but I love Jason Dominguez. I love Spencer Jones. Those are two outfielders, right? Then you have Chase Hampton, your right-handed pitcher, okay? Then you have Roderick Arias, who is listed as a shortstop on MLB.com. He's played third. He's played second. Sounds like he's going to be another Peraza at this point. Pereira, outfield. So your top 5 prospects, 3 of them are outfielders, and you're about to sign Juan Soto to probably a 14-year deal. You have Aaron Judge signed to a multi-year deal, like beyond multi-year deal, and you might bring back Verdugo. So now you got 3 outfielders. Pereira's out for the year now, right? And then you have George Lombard Jr., who you drafted in the first round of 2023. When you already have Peraza, you already have Volpe, you already have Arias, and you drafted another shortstop prospect. You drafted him 26th overall. But now Lombard Jr., who's 19, looks pretty good. So what does this mean for Arias? What does this mean for Peraza? I think the Yankees told us last year in the draft in 2023, and you don't draft for need. Let me make that very clear. There's way too many variables there. When you draft a guy in the MLB draft, it's not the NFL draft. They're not playing day one. but you do account for need and you do account for positional flexibility and organizational stability. And when you look at this team right now, you look at this organization from the top down, did they really need to draft another shortstop? Not if they believe in Peraza, but they clearly do not believe in Peraza because they drafted another shortstop. So, Gary, my thing is they probably missed the boat to trade Peraza. Now they'll probably get and people are going to be pissed when it happens, right? But he's doing nothing in AAA. They've shown no interest in doing anything with him. I'm not even saying I would trade him away, but I'm saying be prepared. It's going to come right around the trade deadline. He's either going to be thrown into a nice deal where it actually works out and you get a really nice player, or he's going to be thrown for a middle relief pitcher. It's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, and I did use the word mid on purpose. Like a guy who is just a middle relief pitcher, they are going to trade him away for somebody like that, and the fan base is going to be livid. But the reality is,
just pick their guys and then trade the rest. Pick your guys. That's what the rest of the systems do. Whenever someone looks at a team, I'll use the San Diego Padres.
It just doesn't seem like. I mean, when they got Vivas too, another infielder, they traded away Sweeney and got another infielder.
Use the Padres as a perfect example. Okay, they love a prospect. They'll try to call him up and use him. Okay. But if someone's an odd man out, they'll ship him out of there. Ship him out of there. Okay. It was very clear years ago. Florial is not someone that the Yankees see a future with. As soon as that time came and fans were actually murmuring that, and this is not just like fans talking, the fans are watching you not put this player on the roster. So something's up. Okay. It's not, if he's performing in AAA, we've got Aaron Hicks in center field for the Yankees. Something is up that you don't believe in this player. So if something is up and it's something that you think, go ahead and do yourself a favor while he's still valuable in performing, trade that player. Because if you don't, you're talking about a player feeling like he's stuck in the minor leagues. And in my opinion, the Yankees have done such a bad job, not this year necessarily, but in years past, of getting a player to where he feels like he's stuck. And he's log jammed in positions that are not of need for the Yankees. Because you have to remember, Jason Dominguez is not on the big league roster. Yeah, he's hurt right now, but he wasn't on the big league roster 2 weeks ago because he plays center field. That's the reason why our fourth best offensive option in the entire system was not on the big league roster, was because of where he plays positionally. So if you're going to be making these type of decisions in the draft or in the international draft, you're making mistakes. Because if you feel like you're going to go invest $13 million into a player who, frankly, we expect to perform well in Verdugo, he has performed well. Yes, he's sliding right now, but overall, he's been very good. It puts you in a position where you can't call up Jason Dominguez. What did the Yankees think they were going to do? Think about it, Jake. The Yankees knew Jason Dominguez was going to be healthy at some point this season. They knew this, right?
Yeah.
They spent money on Alex Verdugo. I thought it was a fine decision. But here's my question. What are we doing with Jason Dominguez? What's the plan with Spencer Jones? Because if the plan is to put them in the outfield, which I would expect that to be the plan, then what's happening with Juan Soto? You guys are acting like Aaron Judge moving to first base is rocket science. They're talking to us like it's crazy. Why would you move him to first base? Okay, well, leave him in center field then. Leave Soto in right field. Give him an extension. What are you doing with Dominguez? What's the plan? And you know what they say when all those things happen exactly how they said they should happen? You end up with your fourth best player log jammed. There's no reason at all, you mentioned it initially, for your fourth best option and your whole organization to be stuck behind players in the outfield because positionally you have not crafted an organization to where it fits. It doesn't make sense. And again, if that's going to be the case and you're just fine log jamming dudes, trade their ass away, because guess what? If you ended up trading a Dominguez or trading a Jones, I'm not saying we should. I'm saying if you did, you'd get all the needs that everyone ever talks about, they'd be filled. Okay. If you want to talk about the Yankees need a high prize closer, you want to talk about that they need a third baseman or a second baseman, pretty easy to fill when you stop being redundant with your system, not just with Jones or Dominguez, right? But with Ramirez, Arias, all these guys. So the Yankees, in my opinion, last thing I'm going to say is that they need to go ahead and pick who you genuinely think can be a contributor at the big league level. You cannot tell me that you've got a hat full of 6 guys and you think that one of the 6 is going to be the starting third baseman for a World Series team. It doesn't work that way. Look at teams like the Dodgers. Look at teams like Baltimore. They'll tell you who they think their third baseman of the future is. They'll tell you they think Rauschman is going to be the catcher of the future. They don't tell you it's 3 dudes, okay? They'll say one of them. And so the Yankees have to find their one guy at each position, maybe 2, and then go from there.
I know. And I mean, really the entire point of a guy like, say, Peraza was that he'd probably take over at second base and you wouldn't have to worry about paying Glaber. And now it's like, obviously you're not going to pay Glaber, but like, what do you do at second base now? That's the thing that it frustrates me, because it seemed like they had a plan and I was skeptical about the plan because I was like, I don't think they both can work. I didn't really see it. And sure enough, the Yankees didn't make it work. Fun thing before we end it here. MLB.com had their MLB pipeline mock draft a few days ago. They had the Yankees at 26 selecting Kahnle Culpepper from Kansas State, a shortstop.
Which I guess to defend them a little bit here and not beat them up too much, because I mean, we love overall what this team looks like. Taking a shortstop also means you're taking the best athlete in the infield, and you feel like a really good shortstop in general. Like, ask yourself if Matt Chapman was in college. I
like Kahnle Culpepper. He played in the USA. He was on Team USA for the Classic.
The best defender should be at shortstop. Okay. And then in the big leagues, of course, where guys are big and strong and they're pulling the ball at third base a lot, pull happy, right? It's the best way to score in the big leagues. You're going to have a really good defensive third baseman in a guy like Matt Chapman. Well, in college, that guy's the shortstop. Okay. That's just the way that goes. So I'm sure the Yankees view it that way, that they're not just trying to take shortstops after shortstop and then just say, we're finding the next Volpe. And what do we do with Volpe? They look at it like, defensively, the shortstop has the best opportunity to be able to move to third, as opposed to moving a third baseman in college who's probably a bigger player, like a Chris Bryant, for example, and then moving him over to second base. Having a third baseman and drafting that guy and trying to fill that role, you pretty much guarantee you're finding yourself a third baseman, a first baseman, or a left fielder. So I think the Yankees look at it that way defensively, and I can't necessarily blame them, but again, the main thing for them is they've got to make decisions about who they're buying into, because right now, for what reason would Oswald Peraza think that he's believed in? Like, why would he think that he's believed in this organization? In my opinion, there's no reason for him to think that he's like a hot month stretch away from being the starting second baseman for the Yankees to trade away Glaber. Like, there's no reason for him to feel like that's a viable option for him. So if that's not the case, you might as well go ahead and set sails now.
No, I agree. I mean, he gets called up. Boone had no comment aside from, he's up for pretty much today. And it's like, there you go. That's how they feel about him. Culpepper, promising bat. You want to see a little bit more power out of him. Probably moves to third base in the long term, but it's a Gold Glove potential third base, says MLB.com. Okay. It's weird. I felt like I had an idea what their lineup would look like down the road, and now it's so murky. I thought Glaber would 100% be back. I think they were ready to pay him. I really do. And after this season, I just don't. He's still going to get his money too.
And if you remember, I said they wouldn't. I said they absolutely wouldn't bring him back. I said they wouldn't bring back Rizzo because, I mean, I thought the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, I was out on Rizzo and LeMahieu. I thought this was their last year for sure.
Well, I think for Glaber, it just has more to do with not necessarily that the Yankees don't want him back, but they don't want him back after having dealt with Soto, because Scott Boras is going to have his way with Juan Soto. Okay. So let's be very clear. They're not going to bring in Juan Soto, and he's not going to be taking a discount for the Yankees. He's not. It might be minor. Like, you might be talking about 20 or 30 million, but that contract starting with a 5 or 6, it's big.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a world where the Mets offer him way more and he goes to the Yankees because, well, it's the Mets.
Mhm.
I could totally see that. I don't think, yeah, the home discount is so annoying. That's such a fan thing.
It
We're all
sucks.
fans at heart, but like, yeah, I see it all the time, and I'm like, you have to understand, this is the last time these guys are going to get paid. Like, I mean, you have to be real and be like, oh, well, what could I do with? Yeah, but you're still working. You'll be working for the next 20, 30 years. These guys are trying to retire age 32 and never have to work again.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into that. I do agree, like endorsements and all that. Like Joe Montana, even though he got paid jack shit back in the day, is totally fine because of all the endorsements and everything. So if you do it right, great. But I mean, we've also seen Allen Iversons of the world go broke. So,
Yeah, you can't
you know,
ask people. Well, here's the thing: Allen Iverson's not broke because he's about to get $100 million deal from Reebok. Remember, Allen Iverson, he actually negotiated in his contract that he wants to wait until I think he's like 58 or whatever he was. I think it's 55, and then he receives $100 million deal from Reebok. So
yeah. But
he'll
that
do
was
just fine.
true. But he was homeless at one point, if you remember.
Yes, but again, you can't ask people, regardless of how rich they are, to give up $1 so you can be happy with where they play. That shit doesn't matter at all. To be
Oh,
frank
yeah.
with you, it's everybody else. Imagine if I walked and knocked on your door, Jake, and was like, "Hey, I know you're doing shows for the Rams and you're making all that money, but why don't you go ahead and just give up, $1,000 a month? Like for what? You don't need all that money. Like because to be honest with you, it's all relative." If the person making $50,000 a year thinks their life sucks and they think the person that has a life that's making $100,000 a year, it must be really easy for them to give up 10 grand, but really difficult for me. Right. And
Yeah.
then all of a
Oh,
sudden,
yeah.
and so on and so forth, the person who's making more money than you, it seems like a much easier time giving up the dollar. But if anything, if there's anything to learn from any of this, it's that nobody wants to give up dollars. It just doesn't work that way. Every once in a while, a player will throw $1 here, $1 there. They really don't want to play for the certain team. They really want to play there. But you're talking about contracts already in the mid 300s. We're not talking about you're giving $100 million deal like discount. That does not exist. Aaron
Well,
Judge
and
would have been a San
there's no
Francisco
salary
Giant if
cap.
the Yankees. No, there is no salary cap. So if the Yankees want him, they got him. Okay. Juan Soto will
Yeah.
be a Yankee if Hal Steinbrenner puts up or shuts up. That's why we always say, write a damn check, Hal. And if you write that check, we know what our future is. So don't ask Juan Soto for some hometown discount. He might give you a $10, $15 million deal, but don't tell me that he's going to show up and because remember Jeter? They were like, please don't make this public. And sure enough, Brian
Yeah.
Cashman and the Yankees made it public on purpose because they knew us dinglings at home were going to get mad at Derek Jeter for not signing a deal. And so that's what happened. And Derek, rightfully so, to this day, he doesn't like that.
He doesn't like Cashman.
Not at all.
He has every right to feel that way because he wanted it to be. I don't think everything has to be made public. I don't think every organization makes it public. It's, it's a dirty tactic. And then at the end of the day, what do they always say? Oh, it's just a business. It's like
just a
always.
Business. Like my taint. It's not just it's just a business. This is supposed to be a partnership as well. This is a business, but we're also partners. Don't make it where I sign on the dotted line. Like Garrett Cole signs a 9-year, $360 million contract. He gets to the table with Boris. And now you want to call it a family? It's not a family. It's a business.
And like, I guess adding on to your point, I do understand when fans get upset when you talk about other players. I won't name certain names or anything, but you talk about certain players and in like, say the NFL, they have a hard cap, not a soft cap. So you can't go over it to pay your own guys like the NBA. You have a hard cap. Then, at the wrong time, guys are like, I'm holding out. I want to raise. Like, really? We have a team that's ready to win a Super Bowl, all that. Nope, I want to raise whatever. That can be tough. And I'm not throwing shade at Matthew Stafford. So if any Rams fans are watching, that's not what I'm talking about.
That's the least of his problems this week.
Yeah. But yeah. So the point I'm making here is like you mentioned Tom Brady earlier when, bringing up something. Tom Brady, a lot of people don't realize this, took like the bare minimum, like about like $12 million a year at quarterback, knowing full well the best way to win in this league is for the quarterback to take less money. You're essentially on a rookie contract. It allows the team to spend as much as they want.
Yep.
Get guys around you that can help protect you, that you can help win a Super Bowl. And then Tom knew, I'm going to come home and I'm going to have all my endorsement money. Under Armour, TB12 company. He wasn't worried about any of that. And he was still thinking like a businessman. You know how,
It was
it's
such
just
a
business.
dangerous precedent to set because it just puts other players in a position where it's like the fans are going to look at you and say, why don't you do that? You're asking me to give up $20 million a year. It's absurd. So I just felt like it was perfectly fine for him to do that. But for people to think, well, if you're telling me you want to win, you'll sign for $12 million. Tom Brady does it. He's signing a bunch of endorsements. You can do the same thing. So why don't you do what he does? And it puts you in a position as a player.
And not everybody is as marketable as Tom Brady.
Not at all. But what if you were? What if you were exactly as marketable, right? What if Lamar Jackson got into a position, or like, let's just use Juan Soto because he's a Yankee. What if Juan Soto's in a position where he technically can make money back in endorsements, but he doesn't want to give up $50 million? What if he wants the $50 million? Is that not okay? In my opinion, it's perfectly fine.
I agree with you. I'm saying I get the fans when you're talking about a salary cap. I get it. That's when it feels like our money, right? Yes. Don't you feel like you're part of that a little bit? Like you're like, oh, I agree. Well, we can't afford. When you're talking about our money, when there's no salary cap in baseball, oh, the luxury tax. Who cares?
They start talking about chicken tender prices. I'm like, I don't give a rat's ass about that. I paid $25 for it anyway. What are you talking about?
Like that's my thing is like, you can't be like, yeah, I hope Juan Soto takes a discount. Why? What about Juan Soto's contract affects you? Except for the fact that if he's not there, it affects you because you're a fan of the team. I don't care how much Juan Soto gets paid. Ohtani already blew up the market, dude. Like, it's not like Juan Soto's going to kill the market.
Wait, it's Jake, another thing. How they do it? Jake, this is how they do it. Hal Steinbrenner comes out and he says, yeah, hey guys, our payroll's at $300 million. We're going to have to do cutbacks next year. So he sets the precedent right there. The fans hear that message and they say, oh shit. Okay, well, if we're taking payroll off, that means Glaber's $15 million will be off. So we're at like $285. We're already paying Soto $30 million. He's probably going to get a raise to like $40 million. So that's kind of that money right there. So Soto, in a way, is taking from our cap. There's no cap. Hal designed the cap. And if that cap takes away from the Yankees spending money, don't blame Juan Soto. Blame Hal Steinbrenner, okay? Yeah. That's got nothing to do with Soto.
And why are you setting a cap in baseball when like you haven't won a World Series in 15 something years? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be doing that personally. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, just that whole cap thing. I mean, and then people will bring up draft picks. People that really get into it, right? Draft picks. The Yankees are never picking in I don't care if they have the worst record in the league. They're automatically, we broke it down in one of our previous episodes. They are automatically going to be picking in the bottom of the draft because it's just stupid, but that's the way they have it.
Yep.
They spend money, so they get penalized. Oh,
yep. Oh well.
What's funny is I saw something. I think I already mentioned this to you, and yeah, we definitely have to wrap this up. But then again, it's an off day, so I think everyone's going to watch this because there's not going to be Yankee baseball on. What was I going to say? Corbin Carroll won MVP or MVP, Rookie of the Year. Arizona got a competitive balance, or no, they got a draft pick for it, right? They got compensation for it. I heard like the Yankees can't get compensation if Luis Gil wins Rookie of the Year.
I just don't understand the idea of punishing people for spending money. I don't get it. Because I think that the Dodgers are viewed as a villain. They're viewed as a villain because they spend money. In the end, you have to remember.
The Yankees are, and so are the Mets.
Imagine if I was running the Dodgers you would like to believe that when really good players get on the market and you see a fit within your own organization, you giving a contract is you investing into your own team. That's the way the Dodgers see it. I know us Yankees fans and all these other people across baseball, we look at it like they're hogging the talent. But do you feel like the Yankees are hogging talent when they made this trade for Juan Soto? I didn't. I felt like the Yankees were making a decision that was best for them, and to hell with all these other teams.
There's
Who
plenty
cares?
of talent all over baseball. I mean, you have
Yeah,
guys like Marcelo Zuna who anyone could have picked up, anyone could have paid.
exactly.
I mean, you didn't have to trade for him. You didn't have to give up the farm to get him.
Didn't the Dodgers only win one World Series since 1988? They won in 1988. They won in 2020, correct?
Yeah, they only won one World Series.
So if that's the case, why wouldn't the Dodgers feel like we're going to bring on as much talent as we possibly can to try to win one more time? Winning once is hard. It's hard to win once for all these
small
teams.
market excuse
Mhm.
because all of these owners are rich. Just some owners prefer to spend money and others don't want to spend money. But we've now talked, all these fans into believing that because the Marlins are known as a team that had Dontrell Willis and Miguel Cabrera and all these guys, and then they just traded him away or got rid of them because they couldn't afford them. It was because they're a small market team. No, the owner is a cheapskate. Okay.
Oh, you mean like John Henry for Boston, who's worth $5.3 billion, and he tells the Red Sox every year that we can't spend money. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Mookie Betts, sorry, we can't
bullshit.
afford it.
It's bullshit. It's all on the owner. And so now you have all these people thinking like their teams are like, oh, we're poor. You're not poor. Your owner will never have to worry about money ever in his life, period.
Right.
And neither will his son and his son of his son and his son of his son and his son of his son. Okay. So let me make that very clear. They have generational wealth. They just don't want to spend the money. So yeah, I agree with you. The Dodgers are still kind of annoying the way they spend, but I do agree with you. But I think that's going to wrap it. No game today. I say today. We recorded this yesterday. You're seeing this on Monday. No game today. So enjoy this. This is going to be a fat freaking podcast. We're just going to call it the fat freaking podcast.
I know. Episode. We're like as long as Joe Rogan over here. This is crazy.
I know. He records 3 shows of 3 hours in a row.
Well, shit, I would too if I was getting paid
9 hours.
Well, don't you know if I was making $50 million a year to do podcasting? Now, technically, he was doing that before he was making that, so you got to give him the credit. But I mean, he's getting output as well. Man, that dude is making some pretty coin.
We just gave him the full out. We gave him the full-on Lizzo meal over here at Five Guys.
I just went to Five Guys yesterday. By the way, I know people are probably seeing my red cup and are thinking, wow, Chef's just getting turned, right? He's getting turned on a Sunday.
There's water in there.
No, there's Pedialyte in here. I went golfing. It was 110 outside.
Oh,
I was dying. No, I was dying. So, yeah, I mean, you can see I look like a mozzarella stick right now, but I'm still here. Ball is life. 90-minute podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this. Like and subscribe. I know Jake usually does this part of the video, but I'll tell you, the fact that we can talk 90 minutes with a team where DJ LeMahieu is hitting 6, Jake, I think it says a lot about us and our audience.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you guys have been interested in everything we've put out. It's been crazy. I mean, hopefully, we'll see. Hopefully, we hit 800 subscribers before the Mets game on Tuesday. That's your challenge. Obviously, cool. If you're already subscribed, you can't really control that. You can't just unsubscribe and subscribe and get us a free one. But
honestly, pointless to tell them because they're already here.
Yeah, but we appreciate you guys nonetheless. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to leave a comment. Let us know how we did. And as Gary always says, definitely be sure to like the video. But I'll let Gary say that. Yeah,
and like this video.